Hi, I'm IKEA, and for today's video, we're going to have a build showcase on a Hunters Fury with shotguns. As with the recent patch, Intimidate has gotten a very big change to it that has made it viable again for shotguns, as shotguns, especially on Hunters Fury, for the longest of times, didn't really have a good talent, and with Intimidate's changes, it has actually become very viable and very effective. As always, with build showcases, I'll be making extensive use of the build collection and a build picture from there. We're going to go over several variants. We're going to use 3 different backpack talents to trigger Intimidate with, as I think those are the preferred ones, even though there are a few other ways you could do it as well. And as always, of course, with build showcases, everything will be timestamped down below and linked as well, so you can jump around. It's going to be in 2 chapters. In the first chapter, we'll go over the build picture and its layout and how I set up mine. And in a second chapter, we'll go into the gameplay, and I will try to give you my best insights into how to play one. And we'll take it into some summits, some bounties, and some missions, and play around with it. So yeah, let's jump into discussing the build. And here's the build as we'll be discussing it today. It is, of course, Hunters Fury with some shotguns, and that has been made possible with some changes to recent talents. Let's start off by discussing Hunters Fury, and Hunters Fury is a really great gear set, which at 2 pieces gives some shotgun or SMG damage. Here, of course, we'll be using the shotgun damage especially. On its 3-piece, it has 20% armor and kill, and it's recently reduced health on kill to 50%, although that's really not an issue. That hasn't really affected the build. On 4 pieces, we have the actual mechanic of Hunter's Fury, which is that enemies within 15 meters will have a debuff above their head. That debuff will amplify your weapon damage against them by 20%. This is actually your actual weapon damage amplifying against them, so it is not for skills and such. And you will basically have a 20% amp against enemies that are marked above their head. And that mark is very powerful, not only because of its 20% amp, it is also very powerful for vision, because nothing within 15 meters can really hide from you, because they'll have the mark above their head and you will easily see where they are. There is no guessing of like, where is this guy? Once you get within 15 meters, you'll know where that guy is. Also, there is a mechanic for CCing with it, which is that killing a debuffed enemy with your weapon disorients other enemies within 5 meters. If you were to use the backpack of Hunter's Fury, you would actually increase this to 10 meters radius, but you really don't want to do that. Well, this is a nice secondary feature to have, as especially if you're standing in front of a big group. If you kill one of them, you basically disorient everyone around them. That is quite handy and will save you quite often. It isn't all, but it isn't worth giving up a backpack talent for to make it larger, not unless you're doing it for other reasons, really. And also there is a tertiary stacking buff, which is that and amplifies weapon damage by 5% for 10 seconds. So this is a stacking buff, stacking up to 5 times for every kill. It has a duration of 10 seconds. It refreshes within that 10 seconds if you get a second kill, so you can stack it up to this 5 times. And there is actually an oddity with this one. This isn't 5 stacks of 5 being 25% amp when it is complete. It is actually self-multiplicative, and it's one of the few self-multiplicatives that exist in the game. We'll actually see the one other one in a second in Intimidate, and that means that this is 5 stacks of 1.05 multiplying against each other, meaning that we reach a quite a bit higher number, and we'll go into some calculations later on where we'll see the exact number. And yeah, Hunter's Fury, you want to go with the 4 pieces. You want to avoid having either the chest and the backpack usually. The backpack increases the range of the disorients. The chest increases the length that this weapon damage buff will stay active to 30 seconds, which is actually pretty powerful, but isn't as powerful as a chest talent can be. So we're going with 4 pieces on the mask, the gloves, the knee pad, and the holster, avoiding the chest and backpack because we want other talents there. Brand-wise, for the other 2 pieces, we're of course going with Cheska and Grupo. in this build where we're using it with shotguns, we don't have the SMG bonuses to crit chance, so we do need the chest gun. We also actually need several rolls and maybe even mods to be towards crit chance so that we land on a high enough crit chance that it's worth it. And we'll see in the build picture in a second what that ends up being. Cheska and Grupo together are really great brand bonuses. You could go actually nowadays with other things as well, like Palisade that has come in with this season, giving up this 15 crit damage for 10% armor on kill, which will add to this 20% that you already have from Hunters Fury, can actually be a decent choice. You give up a little bit of damage for that, and actually in the calculations again as well, we'll go into that option if you were to go it, and it's just below 5%, basically. That is well worth giving up, this group of 4. But of course, that if you want to keep it full red, as we have it here, that would mean that you're going after a unicorn piece, but you could keep the blue core. Then we come to the talents, and it's especially the rework of Intimidate that has come in with this season that has really made shotguns really viable again. Shotguns were kind of not working well with any of the talents that we had. You could try to go flatline. That is one of my attempts that I did. You could go double companion, as while the double companion for a little while was broken, was very worth it, but afterwards not so much. Now Intimidate being back from the dead, as it was, has made it a very viable choice for shotguns and even SMGs, but especially giving shotguns a chance again. And the change that they made is that Intimidate itself is, while you have bonus armor, you gain 1 stack each second up to a max of 9. This used to be 1 stack up to a max of 7, and then 1 stack per second. It has now been changed to 3 stacks per second. Yeah, each stack gives weapon damage, but increases weapon damage, as it says here. Again, a misnomer, as we quite often get annoyed by in build showcases with, as this is an amp, as this is a separate amp, not additive to anything else. It is also the other self-multiplicative. So in this build, we have both self-multiplicatives, which are basically meaning that it is 1.04 to the power of 9, basically, for this buff at full stacks, which means that, yeah, it isn't a 9 times 4. It is actually a much higher number, and we'll see in the calculations that it lands up around 42% once it's maxed out. There is some conditionality more so than even that bonus armor that is to enemies within 10 meters. This within 10 meters is kind of an annoyance, something you'll have to deal with, because quite often the Hunters Fury buff works to 15 meters. So you need to be a little bit closer than just the mark. We'll be using our shield, especially, as we'll talk about it in gameplay for that, as well as we'll be using the striker shield. And yeah, all stacks are lost when you have no bonus armor. And this always used to be the annoying thing nowadays with it, is that a long time ago, Intimidate used to be basically, it would trigger on the second you had bonus armor, and when you didn't, it would just go away. But Adrenaline Rush, as the other talent that we have here, used to be that it would basically trigger right away as you got close to an enemy, but then yeah, there was no build up to Intimidate. Now, of course, it has gone from 7 seconds to 3 seconds, making it a lot faster. And Intimidate, to me, is very much back. Intimidate is also the one I would go for general play, mostly because it will be active for the first skill as well, where the other two choices we'll go with, which is Memento and Bloodsucker, won't be. We have to make a kill first, then we will have the bonus, which means that it isn't always viable, especially if you're going, for instance, up against rogues, let's say, where you won't get a kill quickly. You want to have the bonus for that one as well. Adrenaline Rush, to me, is generally effective again. And yeah, what Adrenaline Rush does is whenever you're within 10 meters of an enemy, you gain 20% bonus armor for 5 seconds, stacks up to 3 times, and there's a cooldown of 5 seconds. So this means that every 5 seconds, it repeats itself. Even if you were to lose your bonus armor and a little bit of your armor, when this cooldown goes away, you basically get a fresh stack. And especially the more enemies are in front of you, this up to 3 times, the more likely you are to retain some of it. Although we are going full red here, so we will still lose it quite often, but it'll be back in 5 seconds. And then you just have to stack up again for 3 seconds on the Intimidate for it to be fully active again. Let's move on to the skills. This being, as we are using it here, at a full red, although we'll go with some blue cores later on as well. But it is a very aggressive build. It enjoys being very close. That means that one of my slots will always be a Reviver Hive. We use this for the self-revive, of course, and it is very powerful for that, and I'm not likely to give it up, especially not in general play. If I'm doing, for instance, a specific mission and I kind of know that, you know, I can get away without it and I'll have to play smart, you know, if you're speedrunning, basically, you can forego this. Here we're choosing as well a shield. In this case, specifically as well, the Striker shield, so the shield from Firewall. Firewall will be our specialization choice, especially for these builds, as it lines up perfectly well with the close range needs that this build has. And the Striker shield buff as well is very strong. And we will also use it in gameplay for marking how far 10 meters is, as I will basically only be shooting when they are within range of the shield, which has a 10 meter range. So if I'm in that range, everything else will also be in range, with Adrenaline Rush and Intimidate being within that 10 meters. So that's quite nice as well. Weapons-wise, we're going with shotguns, and we're going especially with one specific shotgun, especially for going all red as we have it here. There is one thing that makes this all red kind of possible, and that is the Scorpio. Scorpio having now received a little bit of a buff because it has gone from crit damage as its third stat to being an open third stat. Here I've taken it, of course, to damage to targets out of cover. That is the choice that I would definitely recommend for it. And Scorpio's ability to, its talent, and its ability with that to CC is indispensable. We could go with a damage talent with a different weapon, but we would basically have to give up some form of red cores, maybe to make our shield a little bit stronger, or go make something a little bit more survivability in our either our skills or our gear. Instead of that, we're taking that on the weapon, and the weapon is powerful enough that it works out well enough, and we'll just have this be our primary. You could, of course, go with other choices. For instance, here I have the Enforcer. I wouldn't per se recommend the Enforcer. It's also, of course, not gettable if you don't have it already. There are a bunch of other shotguns we can pick here, and we'll go through that with the build picture. But especially Pummel is a very good choice as a talent, either with Perfect on the Black Friday. I would no, not the Black one, on the named SASG, as I can't think of the name for a second there. The Tsunami, of course, as I was fumbling on the name, but that is quite a powerful tool to choose. But especially as well, for instance, if you go with an ACS, that can be very strong. A Lefty can, of course, be very powerful as well for a Perfect Sledge. Either a Supermarine or a Super 90 or a military M870 or just an M870 in general can be very strong. But the general choice I would definitely say is to go with a 612, either in this case with the Mop, with even more armor and kill, maybe if you're also pairing it with Palisade, with maybe even Preservation here to even more so go into armor and kill, or a general 612, because you would, of course, then have 10% detox here, which is indispensable for killing. And yes, some of the talent choices that can go with that, in Pummel, in close and personal, but also in the recent changes. But this might not be available in the future, so do check it out if you're watching this way in the future. Fast Hands is currently working per pellet. It's unsure if this is an intended change, but that has made it a very usable choice as well with shotguns. Yeah, and then specialization-wise, we are going with Firewall. Well, you could pick some of the other specializations, in the case, for instance, especially Gunner for armor and kill, stacking up even more so on armor and kill can kind of make sense, and the bonus ammo, and maybe even Demo or Survivalist or Sharpshooter for their things in detox and avoiding an explosion. Their fire grenades can be super nice, the flashbang and the stability can be super nice, or even going Technician and getting one skill tier extra towards your shield, which can be very powerful. Overall, that I would pick Firewall. This build, these, especially Hunters Fury, both in SMG and shotguns, kind of really fits in nice with Firewall. That shield is an indispensable damage bonus. It is very strong. It is a 11% to 12% amp per enemy in front of you, so it can even be a lot more depending on if a whole group is in front of you. And even, for instance, the armor breaks causing nearby enemies to catch on fire. That is a very strong talent as well. That will save you quite often, as we'll see likely in gameplay as well. Let's jump to this build picture where we'll discuss the stat choices. As we continue on to its build picture, and this is of course linked down below, so you can hop right in there. These are build pictures that exist on my build collection and the way that I present builds on there. Yeah, we have the same build, the 4 pieces with the Cheska and the Grupo, with Intimidate, Adrenaline Rush here. We are choosing to go towards 60 crit chance, as we can reach 132 crit damage alongside of it. We're doing that by taking several crit chances on the build, and we are landing on a perfect 60 with the Scorpio, with having 10 crit chance. That will also be the same case for all other weapons that we put alongside. Well, not all other weapons, but most other weapons in the shotgun class will have the ability to have 2 crit chance mods, meaning that a lot of weapons can land on the 60, which is quite nice, of course. It's a beautiful 60. And for that, yeah, I'm choosing, for instance, here to use that on some of the mods, some of the roles. I'm avoiding, for instance, here to put it on my chest and my backpack. That's more because sometimes I like moving builds around or moving pieces from builds around. And that would mean, for instance, that I can put this in, let's say, maybe trying it out in a striker without remodding it. As the crit damage mods would be, you know, what I would want to have on there. And that's the reason I've gone with this layout. But where those crit chances are, doesn't matter. It could be any of the pieces out here. We have gone with basically 3 places where we could have crit damage. Here in the mask mod, and in the glove. Together, of course, with the chest, because there's crit chance crit damage, with the backpack, crit chance crit damage. 5 crit chance rolls in total, basically, to get to that 60. What you also may have noticed here is that the pieces that I have here have the crit damages optimized, or crit chances optimized underneath them, and the cores are actually recalibrated. That means that I can actually change this to be more or less red cores, because, well, in this setup, we're going for the full red. And with the Intimidate Adrenaline Rush variant, as we'll see it later, I do want to go all red with it because its survivability comes from the Scorpio. With other setups, we could actually go a few blue cores, and especially now with tinkering, we can do that kind of on the fly. So I have basically 3 pieces set up that I at most can go 3 red cores to blue, basically. Because, for instance, with Bloodsucker, as I have it here as well as another option, we can go, for instance, I would go 2 blue cores for that, because Bloodsucker kind of benefits from having a little bit higher armor. The other choice we have here as well is Memento, but Memento would then provide me with basically a blue and a yellow anyway, so we would actually increase our shield, and of course our armor ourselves as well. And Memento is a very nice choice. This build will mostly be used by me for solo play. I can use it in groups, but in groups I would much rather start to trend towards maybe strikers, maybe something that reaches out a little further, because in closing to the enemy, my allies will likely kill a lot of the things. And yeah, on this build picture as well, we have the damage outputs unstacked with the Hunters, but with the Intimidate fully stacked up. And yeah, a few other choices, as for instance, yeah, the Tsunami, as we reached eventually earlier, is up here as well. And yeah, especially going for the 60 crit chance, we could, of course, if we are in duos, for instance, I wouldn't use this in a full group, but maybe in duos I would. And yeah, we could definitely, for instance, flip 2 crit chances over to crit damage, or even just 1 if a Coyote is in the team, because we aren't leaving a hole for a Coyote, but we aren't really expecting a Coyote with this either. So we could even as well then maybe forego the Cheska to something else. That would also be an option. Although I would keep the Cheska and flip the crit chances on the build. So yeah, let's go to a calculation sheet that I've prepared for this build as well. And this is the calculation spreadsheet as is prepared for today for this build. Of course, as well, link down below so you can click through and read along at your own pace, or just look through it at your own pace. These are multi-calculators of my design. There's a video on my YouTube channel which goes quite in depth into them and explains them quite well. But the short of it is that, yeah, input happens down here, output happens up here. They're color-coded to match here, making it a little bit easier maybe. And we are comparing especially on burst DPS and sustain DPS, and we're especially looking at these percentages, and all of the percentages are comparing to this number in the top slot, except for when in here, for instance, again, as well, to the top slot. And we're comparing here to start off with against the Glass Vigilance Threat, an Obliterate Vigilance Threat, and an Unbreakable Vigilance Threat. Three builds that kind of used to be the meta. Then we have also down here the actual current meta in Strikers as comparison points, mostly so we can kind of have a guess at how well the build will do. Now, of course, they play quite differently. A Glass Red plays quite differently than a Striker, than a Hunters Fury, but we can still make meaningful guesses from here. This is as well with a full red, and with, as we have it here, the two green ones here are with the Cheska and a Grupo. Now, it doesn't really matter if it's Intimidate or Intimidate Adrenaline Rush or Intimidate Bloodsucker. They play differently, of course, but for numbers-wise, it doesn't matter really what is triggering Intimidate, as long as we're triggering it. These blue ones are with the Memento, and in different ways. Let's start off first here with the two green ones, and let me explain that, yeah, the first green one is us stacking with Intimidate maxed out, and of course all of the stats linked to as well this 20% headshot rate, so we're guessing a 20% headshot rate on general, and a DTA rate of 60% as I have it here. So 60% of the times, guesstimation-wise, being DTA, the other 40% being DTH. Just to lower, of course, these other ones are running ARs. The Vigilances are with the high-end Reds are with FAMAS. The Striker is with Elmo. The Shotguns, of course, have a bonus to DTA. So just to compare them somewhat on same terms. We are putting it on 20% headshot rate and 60% DTA. That will be the same for all of the other calculations as well in here, and it's important to know that. And yeah, of course, we're putting in the stats from different weapons, and that is why their colors are different. If we look here at the Hunters Fury with Intimidate, with the Cheska Grupo variant, the first number, as we have it here, is basically the same as a Glass Red once it gets going, once it has Intimidate fully stacked. Now, of course, it needs to stack up Intimidate. This Glass is doing this from the first shot until it loses Vigilance. If we compare it to, for instance, a Striker is way ahead. This is also an Obliterate Striker. This isn't even a Chest Striker. So it is very powerful. But the Hunters Fury here isn't, you know, it isn't super bad behind. It is even ahead in sustain, for instance here. The second number that we have here is, as we have here, Intimidate as this amp, and this is actually, yeah, the Intimidate at full stacks with 9 self-multiplicative stacks of 4 will land on this 42.3%. And yeah, that's quite the difference, of course, than just 9 times 4, because yeah, 36 is a lot less than this. The second number as an amp here is the stacking buff of Hunter's Fury, which is also self-multiplicative. Again, it would be 5 stacks of 5 if it was additive to itself, 25. It is instead 27, not the biggest difference, but it is a very important stacking buff that gets often forgotten. And you will quite often have this up, especially if you're doing, you know, bounties and such. You will have this for the last few enemies, for instance. So it is actually worthwhile to know both numbers, and especially when we have that 5 stacks of Hunter's Fury going as well, we can see that, yeah, these numbers get quite high, and we are almost reaching to Obliterate Striker levels, although, of course, we're very short range. We need to be within 10 meters. There are some caveats, and even on sustain, of course, we're not competing against an Elmo, which has very high sustain, but these are high enough numbers on a theoretical end that it is well worth at least trying out the build. Here we have it with the Memento in the same way. First, though, we have the Memento empty. That is the first blue number. The second blue number is with just a memento stacked with its 30 kill confirms. And then the third one is both the kill confirms complete and also having the 5 kills to stack up Hunter's Fury all the way. And it is very competitive. And yeah, with it stacked, so if we basically compare the stacked number versus the number for Cheskov plus Grupo, it is actually quite equivalent to each other. They're basically at 100%. Even if you go with the final number with also Hunter's Fury fully stacked, they are quite comparable to each other. And that's, of course, because while we are losing a few crit damage stats and a crit damage brand bonus, we are gaining that weapon damage that stacks up with the long buff of Hunter's Fury. We could also actually pick up the short buffs, of course, as well, and that will also be another 30 weapon damage, and that is very strong if we are full red. But of course, mechanically for Intimidate, they work differently. Your first skill is going to be without Intimidate active because there is no pickup to have bonus armor. So we kind of have to keep that in mind when we're discussing it. But the Memento version is still doing pretty well for itself. And of course, the Memento version as well has 2 tiers for the shield with 1 blue core and 1 yellow core. So the Memento is a very powerful solo tool. And yeah, I would definitely recommend it. But the Adrenaline Rush, of course, has the benefit of also having the buff for the first skill. If we move down, this is actually a comparison, and we won't go all the way into it, but it is between the choices that we would have. So we have the Intimidate version that we have. Instead of going with the Grupo, as is the top one, here we are going with either with Grupo versus Badger Tough, as we have it here. So Cheska plus Grupo or Cheska plus Badger Tough. And here we're also adding in grading. So we're going with grade 25 for the Scorpio as we have it here, because that will, of course, affect the differences between the two. But even if we take this to grade 0, in this setup, in this full red setup, that must be said, we are still 8% ahead at 0 grading. If we put it back to 25 grading, we're just over 1% ahead with 1.15% ahead, meaning that yeah, Grupo is the go-to over Badger Tough for me, especially for full red. We'll go into if you go a few more blue cores in a second. Then all the options we would have with a perfect Intimidate. So going perfect Intimidate, which is, of course, a Hunter Killer on a golden chest. So we would have to pair it with either Cheska. The Cheska is, of course, going to be the obvious, easiest choice. That one is still behind. So unless you already have a perfect Hunter Killer lying around and it would be easier for you than getting a Grupo or a Cheska chest with Intimidate, you could go with it. You're not losing much, but you're still losing. And perfect Intimidate... it isn't worth it unless you're going for that regen that Golan has. Because one of the things that has happened is actually the gap between. So while both of the numbers for both normal Intimidate and perfect Intimidate have actually gone up with the changes, with instead of 7 stacks of 5 being 9 stacks of 4 for normal and 10 stacks of 0.4 for perfect, the gap between them has actually decreased. Normal Intimidate has gone up a little bit more, and yeah, the gap between them has decreased, meaning that perfect Intimidate is not really worth it unless you're going for that regen. And yeah, we see that back, and of course, if Cheska is going to lose a Grupo in different variants with different crit chances, or going especially as well with a second Golan, you could go 2 Golans here for that 1.5% regen. But you would be dropping 7% of your damage, basically, and that is quite a loss for 1.5% regen. I would much rather have the Memento, basically having Cheska plus Memento. Here as well, we have Intimidate, the normal Intimidate again, with Cheska plus Palisade. So 1-piece Palisade, replacing the Grupo, because the Cheska, of course, is going to be the more powerful piece. If we were to do that, we would first off need to find... If we wanted to be full red, that's kind of a unicorn. We need a crit chance, crit damage, Intimidate, or Adrenaline Rush backpack or chest with Intimidate to recore to red if we wanted to go full red. Or we could, of course, take that blue core. That's not the worst choice. It is especially handy on the shield. But yeah, taking that Palisade is just under 5% loss. But of course, that 5% loss in damage comes back as 10% armor on kill. We're basically giving up the brand bonus that we would get from Grupo to get this. So it is an okay choice, although I wouldn't go for the 2-piece Palisade, which of course has the 2nd-piece health. Yeah, that's too much of a loss. 10%, 11% almost is way too much of a loss for what you gain from that. But sneaking a piece of Palisade, actually, in this build, or even actually in a lot of builds, actually you could sneak one into Strikers as well, for instance, actually can be quite of a choice if you haven't considered that yet. Last up, we have these two charts, and this is Intimidate with Cheska plus Badger Tough, with this top one. With this bottom one, it's Cheska plus Grupo, and we're going basically from 6 reds all the way to 6 blues. So we're adding in, we're flipping each time. And of course, first off, we can see how much we lose per red core lost. So it is actually, of course, not, yeah, red cores have diminishing returns. So even if we lose all of our red cores, we're not losing all of our damage, because a lot of our damage is coming from other sources, basically. But because even at 6 blues, we're still doing, 67-ish, 68% of our damage as a full red. But here at the second one, these black numbers, we're comparing between Badger Tough and Grupo. This is again with grade 25, which will affect Badger Tough, poorly. Basically, we're diminishing the returns from weapon damage, which Badger Tough provides. We can see that up until 1 red, 5 blue in this setup, it's Grupo still wins out against Badger Tough. So with 0 grading, because that's of course an important number to know as well, as we have to change it up here, as all of them take their number from up there. If we then scroll back down again, it is at the 3 red, 3 blue line. And this is of course as well with 0 or with 20% headshot, as we have it there. If we put it as well at 100% headshot, taking the worst case basically for the Grupo in this case, and we scroll back down, it is then Badger Tough wins, but only if you actually consider it at 100% headshot rate. And this is why I would recommend not doing that, because even with 100% headshot rate, if we take it back to grade 25, as of course this is the intricacies of a divisions system, then yeah, at full red, at 1 blue, it would seem that Badger Tough would win. But 100% headshot rate with shotguns is insane to me. So 20% headshot rate, and then we go back down. Yeah, at that point, because yeah, I've seen a lot of people go, you should go Badger Tough, because even at 6 red, it beats it. Not with grading, not if you are starting to account for headshot rate. Yeah, that is the final calculation we'll do here. Let's jump into some gameplay and actually take this into the field and see if any of these calculations can hold up. And yeah, let's start off with some gameplay in the summit, as we'll summit towards the summit of the summit. We're not going to go all the way, we're just going to take 3 floors. One thing I wanted to say, with this build, we're going to take the Memento variant first. I feel the Memento variant is the most new player friendly, although getting the Memento isn't that new player friendly, of course, but it isn't that hard. The Memento has, of course, a lot of good buffs and will help us out a lot, especially having 2 tiers on the shield is very strong. As well, I'm not going to use my grade 25 Scorpio that I was showing earlier here. Let's take it to a grade 01, still with Detox though. I have rerolled it to be with Detox. But just to make it a little bit more of a fair comparison, because not everybody will have access to grade 25, I'm pairing that here as well with a mop. So the named 612 with armor on kill here at the cost of Detox. We've taken preservation here as well, and it's going to be my healing tool here and there maybe. We're taking 4 directives, and on heroic, the directives I'm taking is Fog of War, Ragers, Hard to Earn, and No Regen. And especially I wanted to talk about No Regen as it isn't in the current rotation in the open world, but it is, of course, always available on Summit. And they have altered it. They have fixed it, quotation marks. Now you can't actually bypass it anymore by swapping gear, swapping the grenade, or swapping weapons, which you could, making it basically a free a free one for all intents and purposes for most of us. It is no longer that, and because of that, it also has become actually one to deal with. Also, currently, although no one's sure if they're intending it or not, it is also negating all normal regen in combat. So normally, no regen was intended to just take away regen out of combat. So the healing in between combat is how it was worded initially as well when it was released to be affecting that. Now it's also affecting, for instance, as well the regen from regen builds, for instance, or the regen from the Memento we would have here. So we're no longer regenning at all. But of course, Hunters Fury has an on-kill bonus. And for instance, here as well, I'm just going to kill this thing with my... instead of killing it with my... as well, take a hug and take it down. We'll take a knee there, as I did not see that rusher. But that's no problem. Sometimes you go down. You have to kind of expect that. Playing an aggressive build like this, and it is very much an aggressive build. What I really want to do, and which can be done well in countdown countdown in Summit, you know, the game mode we're in, is getting. There is a lot of all cover in Summit, which you can kind of use to hide behind, make it 1 versus 1s against enemies that are near you. But especially, for instance, on the last enemy, I will kind of swap to my mop and mop them up with it, getting myself basically at least a 40% armor on kill, with preservation there, with the armor and kill from the set and the armor and kill of the mop. That's if I get it with without a headshot, that's 40%. If I get it with a headshot, it's 50% even. So I'm using that basically as my negation of no regen. But also, one of the things is hard to earn, and hard to earn, I feel, is poorly understood, misunderstood. One of those two words, but not poorly misunderstood, as I was about to say. And that is that it is reliant on your specializations, drops of specialization ammo. So each specialization has things that if you do them, you will get bonus ammo. So for instance, with Demolitionist, if you get any explosion kills, so for instance, if you're running, let's say, a mortar build, that will help a lot, for instance, with that. Anyone who's run a mortar build, you know, you get basically infinite grenade launcher rounds. Anyway, even without, you know, golden bullets or Hollywood or anything like that. Here, the requirement for that is being within 10 meters will actually give the 3 marks into the specialization ammo bar, and that is that bar next to my ammo numbers. If you didn't know what that one is, once that fills up as it has done there and is glowing, the next skill I make will drop specialization ammo. With hard to earn, it will also drop an armor pack, an armor kit for me to use. So actually, using a build like this that is actually doing the thing that its specialization wants it to do for its specialization ammo, hard to earn will make no regen pretty okay to deal with, because you'll even get enough armor packs as I have here. And you will see that, yeah, quite often there's going to be a specialization ammo drop, and together with some armor packs. A lot of people take Gunner, and Gunner's one is actually that you have to hold the button down in between kills. Basically, you have to do the LMG thing, basically. It's almost as if it was intended for LMGs. Now, you will get a few of those, especially with ARs, especially with Elmos in shorter range, but yeah, it isn't as regular as, for instance, this. I will actually have, you know, plenty of... There's 2 med packs here. If I wanted to negate no regen, I can. And that is important choices to make, for instance, especially if you're playing solo, and especially if you want to have a bunch of directives. Because, yeah, hard to earn and no regen actually... Kind of hard to earn actually makes no regen a little bit more easy to deal with. But already for Hunters Fury, no regen is actually it isn't as big of an issue because you just run and gun and yeah, you just have that be your healing coming from that armor and kill. That 20%, 5 enemies is your armor bar back all the way full. And of course, I'm doing the pickups and getting some from there as well. And yeah, already while I was talking, we did get, of course, hugged once, but also at one time, you saw one enemy catching on fire when they assaulted me and almost killed me. Ooh, I might actually go down here, but we'll just fall back. And yeah, the play with this is you kind of need to know when to push and when to pull. And you can kill pretty quickly, but not without Intimidate. So I'm going to pick up this, use that as my Intimidate, although actually that other guy, of course, takes it away from me. But trying to keep Intimidate up is a skill on itself.
Terminal destroyed.
Because I'm not doing a very good job of it here. And that's the reason that I kind of like Adrenaline Rush a lot better. Adrenaline Rush will trigger for that first fight, even if you have only halfway stacked on... I'm forgetting some loot, but that's fine. We'll live with that. We'll live with our choices, as I am looking for the key here and there. But yeah, you have to do the pickup. The shield is, as I have it here, with just the 2 blues, or well, the blue and the yellow from Memento being its only 2 tiers. It is actually pretty weak, so I can't really use it to tank with, but you shouldn't play it like that. You should basically play it as a run and gun build. Make it 1 versus 1s. Try to find angles where you're shooting at one enemy, nobody else can shoot at you, preferably where you are within range as well. And you want to grab the pickups and kind of run over, you know, just run over the pickup and then go and kill the next guy. That is kind of the playstyle that you kind of have to do with Memento. Bloodsucker, of course, makes that a little bit easier, actually, because you don't have to go and pick up the pickup. But then Memento has, you know, decent all-round damage, because I'm already charged up all the way on it. But yeah, we're just gonna try to be better about playing it right, which is, as I'm doing there, doing the pickups, not getting shot, and just actually hitting hard. And yeah, as you saw there, when I'm doing that, it is actually pretty powerful. We were hitting for 1,000,000 per pellet. That will kill any elite and named fast. Anyway, we have some clear there. Let's go see our loot here. As I briefly have a peek at how long we've recorded for. Let's go another 3 floors real quickly, as we'll discuss the Memento variant a little bit more. One nice thing about Hunters Fury is it doesn't need to stack. Now, with Intimidate, we're putting that stacking back in, of course. With SMGs, you could go this route as well. But SMGs actually have a much, as we didn't get the key, we'll leave that actually behind. I'm not going to go chase it. As yeah, with talking, I likely didn't see it in a corner, losing its religion, but we'll just push on. The Intimidate, of course, is basically because you have to give up the backpack talent for it. While it is a large number by itself, it does get beaten by Vigilance plus Obliterate at full stacks. And SMGs can go that route. But of course, SMGs play a little bit differently, because with SMGs, you can kind of be in that 15-meter range. Here as well, the shield, so the striker shield, that edge that it has there basically, that is actually the 10-meter range. So you can kind of use that to make sure your Intimidate is kind of on target.
Rogue assault turret detected.
And yeah, we have a SHT here, and these are always annoying. One thing you can do, especially if you're a technician, so with tech tanks I quite often do it, is you can actually jam these. But what you can do as well is actually just kill the things. I might go down here. There's something behind me and I couldn't find what it was. And that sniper turret might actually murder me. But I will kill that guy. He was much closer to death. Him dying I knew was gonna
Detected.
disorient the other person.
Hostile striker drone.
And you kind of have to sometimes play it like that, just knowing where, like, who to kill. Sometimes going for the smaller target is much better because of that disorient. Now, of course, something like a drone or a turret isn't going to get disoriented, so... And yeah, here I'm very much out of range, but also I didn't want to push forward because, yeah, there's a bunch of skills shooting at me. But I'm not dead yet. I say
Signs critical.
a second before that. And we killed everybody without capturing it first. But yeah, here's what I mean with doing the thing that your specialization wants of you for a lot of medpacks. No regen is still easy enough to deal with. You just have to be smart about it and use a specialization like this. And because, for instance, as well, while I do enjoy my tech tanks, their way of getting extra pips into the specialization bar thingy is to kill mechanicals, to basically kill turrets, kill mini tanks, kill warhounds, stuff like that. That doesn't happen as often as kills within 10 meters. Basically, all my kills should be within 10 meters, so you get so much specialization ammo from that, and together with some medpacks. So I can actually have a lot of medpacks. And yeah, we have this moment of where is the last guy? Well, they're over there. I was hoping that, yeah, the mark, this hunter mark on top of them, that helps a lot as well. We have this sniper. That actually helped out because when they broke my armor, I set the closest enemy to me on fire. And that kind of is actually kind of one of the handy things. And yeah, we've cleared floor 94. We'll keep pushing on as the wrong door is marked there by Isaac. I'm going this way. And you kind of have to expect to be downed here and there. That's fine. Like, I play very aggressive when I do have the hive. Once I lose my hive, I'll slow it down a little bit. But also, you don't need to slow it down all the way. You can still be aggressive without it. Worst case, you die. You get reset back down a few floors at most. Because at most, you'll get reset back to the start of the 3-floor section. I don't need ammo. One of the nice things as well with shotguns is they don't use up much ammo. And especially, for instance, if you're wanting to do even the challenges of, for instance, setting enemies on fire. If you pick up special ammo, you can actually use that on your secondary, for instance. I quite often do that. And just use that sparingly here and there with one shot. It's just fight the faction, for instance, if you're doing status strife, to set outcasts or cleaners on fire with a secondary and then just swapping back and not using it when that faction isn't there. And we're making good time here. The game is being very polite to me and not giving me the worst of things. Although, well, here we go with the worst of things, which is, of course, Black Dusk. Nobody likes Black Dusk. Sokolova is not loved by all. I might go down here from that Death Pulse. Well, actually, so. But I have my hive. Again, I'll play aggressive till my hive is gone. And I'm not keeping Intimidate up enough for it to actually be working too well. But I'm also, like, not completely sucking. I'm sucking just a little. What is noticeable, though, is that having two tiers on the shield is actually of great benefit. This shield feels a lot more usable. Just to take a few hits, especially chip damage from this guy, for instance. I wouldn't be comfortable with the full red standing in front of that, but a lot more so with
They took him out.
With this variant. And yeah, that thing dying as well. It was a marked enemy. It died. It disoriented everything around it. That disorient is very strong. It is one of the best tools you have, especially solo, for making sure that you survive. we'll pick that up. And again, in this room, 2 armor packs. If I needed to armor pack up at the end of this fight, that's perfectly doable. As I have seen a lot of people bitch, basically, about no regens changes and that it was unneeded. And while I would agree with some of them that, yeah, they didn't fix fragile armor, but they fixed that. I would love for them to fix both, but yeah. Honestly, anything that is, you know, broken like that, I feel they should fix. As we're heading into, this is the final room of this section. It's a destroy the support station, which is also a very easy objective. Because especially SHT ones take a while. The death pulses can be very annoying and can be very deadly. The poundly modified pulses. But yeah, I gave up my Intimidate way too easily there. As that's the downside of being close to full red as we are here, is that there isn't that big of a bonus from the blues. And yeah, we have the secure the area remaining. And let's see who's alive. And yeah, the Hunter's Mark is super nice for this. That guy might have escaped me as he was in the corner of my eye, but it didn't escape there because the Hunter's Mark made it very, very easy to see him. And actually we have one more room, of course. I am talking straight out of my backside because I definitely... that is not how that 3-floor section ends. That is this room here. We did get the key as well, so... But yeah, we'll keep running and gunning, and that is the playstyle of this thing. Be mobile, move around a lot. It is actually... the enemies do lose sight of you if you are running around. You have maybe noticed a few times that I flanked the enemies, and then they're still pointing kind of where I was. And you can definitely make good use of that. And especially if I keep my Intimidate up, I can actually pretty quickly, for instance here, hopefully kill this guy, although I lost my Intimidate there, but we'll murder the rest and we'll end this here. Because even without the pickups, I am still kind of powerful, but yeah, with it, it's day and night when you do and don't have Intimidate up.
Gonna blow you to hell.
And we'll especially see with Adrenaline Rush that it works a little bit better, for me at least, I feel. If you are more of a... Or well, depending on the content as well, because here we are in Summit where you're expected to be surrounded. I feel this would work especially well as well in missions where you can know where the enemy is going to spawn from and you have them right in front of you. Let's go get our final chest here together and then we'll leave it there. We're not going to take it all the way to the Hunters. I was thinking about it maybe, but that would make this segment way too long. So we'll just do this, finish off this, get our loot up here, have a peek through it, see if we get any good LMGs, as that is my target, as getting a few of those. And yeah, that was a taste of the Memento variant. I lost my Mementos way too often, but I especially wanted to talk about the directives as well a little bit, and how a build like this can kind of circumvent some, or well, some builds can specifically help with some of the directives. Let's take it to some bounties, and we'll take the Bloodsucker variant. And here we are setting up for bounty, not added yet. The things that I've changed about the build, we're taking out that Grupo again, this time with Bloodsucker. I've taken as well 2 blue cores. I kind of like having a few more blue cores with Bloodsucker because we need to keep it up. It is important to keep it up. Yeah, and for that you need some blue pills. No, blue cores, keep it up. I've taken though, from here on out, we're grabbing the Scorpio at his max. plus 25 on the expertise. I'm pairing it here with the lefty. I'm going to try to sneak one in. For the rest of it is basically the same build, but yeah, we've added in a few blue cores just to keep it up. Here as well, I wanted to show, as quite often what you can do for some of the places, as we talked about with bounty cheesing. There is this zone, for instance, and there is one annoying place to do bounties, which is in this big open zone. And there's a much easier place here in this building. And one thing we can do is actually, I'm standing in the zone, that is annoying, and I'm going to pop the bounty with 2 heavies. That's nice. I already love it. And that bounty is going to go over there because it can't place it in this annoying area. So yeah, quite often what we do if we want to bounty cheese, for instance, this zone, we would capture this control point. We would do it in groups. You would need basically groups. Most of the team would run out of the building and out of the zone. One person would go over here and stand in this zone, forcing the game to put the bounty over there. And yeah, let's go to that bounty area and then we'll murder them over there. And yeah, we have arrived at our destination and our targets are waiting for us to be murdered politely. And one thing that I should do a lot here is try to keep my shield up and try to keep the bonus armor up. One thing you will notice already is we are keeping Intimidate up a lot better. And that will be through the entire fight here. I'm much better at keeping Intimidate going with Bloodsucker than I am with the Memento. The Memento, especially with the 4 red as we had it there. Not having to go over the pickups, basically, especially in Summit, really, because out here it is also a little bit easier to go through the enemies because there isn't that many elevation changes as there are in Summit, having to jump up or jump down. And here we're just pushing through it, and we have a ton of bonus armor. Bloodsucker works really well, just because it stacks up to 10 times as well. And there is actually some shenaniganery going on at the current time. If you stack it up to 10 once, the second time it goes to 20. It's a bit weird. And yeah, as well with this location, one reason I wanted to go to this location as well, as you maybe have noticed outside there was a wave outside. That if you do bounties in New York often, that may have seemed odd to you if you haven't done a bounty in this zone for a while. They have actually fixed up a lot of spawns as well. For instance, the back spawn there on the door that happened there, that never really used to happen here. So they have been doing some good work here. So all 3 bosses spawned all together. 2 of them are heavies. I already know that from earlier. I have shock rounds though, and let's go murder them. So I don't have bonus armor. The first thing I want to do is kill something like that, the purple. Then I'm gonna kill this one, and especially use the tools available to you. So for instance here, the shock. Although I'm going to go away as I was trying to get that guy. But one thing as well, so bonus armor, for instance here, although I'm not doing a great job, you can of course trigger Bloodsucker by killing skill proxies. For instance, those 2. I'm gonna, although nice of them to give me a 3rd one even as well. I'm gonna try and get a sledge going on this guy. His friend is very annoying. And not letting me just kill his friend. Because I'm trying to get that backpack. That will remove their helmets. Although, well, after this animation, actually. I'm gonna heal up. We have the firewall medpack, which is very strong. If I kill this guy, it will actually disorient the other guy, of course. So I just need to get the kill in. But yeah, whenever Adrenaline Rush isn't up, or Intimidate isn't up, actually, is the word that I'm looking for, we aren't doing much damage. When we do have Adrenaline Rush up, we do a lot more damage. Oh, Intimidate, again. We're doing a lot more damage. So, it is a very fine balancing act, but not a hard one. We struggled a little bit through it, but that kind of shows this as well. Heavies, if you're picking on enemies that you can kill as quickly as possible, especially for instance in missions solo, there aren't that many heavies, there aren't that many, named heavies like this floating around. It can be a lot easier. But yeah, let's take it actually into a mission in some group content as well, and we'll take the Adrenaline Rush, as I was mispronouncing Bloodsucker the whole time into some of that. And we're going to take this build now. We have put a Adrenaline Rush, as I misspoke a dozen times earlier with it. Adrenaline Rush and Intimidate is my preferred variant. That's also why the build picture is set up with that. Here as well with full red, as it was before. Adrenaline Rush, of course, comes every 5 seconds and gives us some bonus armor as long as we are within range of the enemy. And I kind of enjoy that the best because we can have it going without getting a kill first. So for instance, also if we run into rogues or unnamed or, you know, you get blown up sometimes, all of those things, 5 seconds later, you have a chance again of having Intimidate going again. We're keeping that Grade 25 Scorpio. I've taken an M870 here with Pummel, also a very potent choice. And yeah, we're gonna go into some missions. I'm just gonna matchmake for one, and I'll catch you in the loading screen in a second. Here I have accepted an invite to Wallstreet. Hopefully they're not too deep in. Wallstreet is a mission that at parts is a little bit longer range than this build is capable of. But let's take it there anyway, as it is a fun mission with a fun boss fight as well. And yeah, they're not too deep in. They're actually just a few rooms in. And there is the fourth person likely loading in as well with me. And yeah, we're gonna be aggressive. Now, personally, of course, if I had my way, I would be Eclipse here, and I would be eclipsing my way through here. But instead, we'll deal with them this way. And yeah, part of it is very much being aggressive. So I had that elite next to me, but I very much went for that red behind them because I knew I could kill them pretty quickly, and that would disorient everybody around me. So sometimes you have to think like that, like what is going to give me a disorient really quickly. I'm gonna grab this chest back here, especially chest I still always go for. We'll actually show most of the chest, and actually if we make it all the way to the end of the mission, which, you know, we should. Although, why is there mortar on the ground there? Also, I'm gonna give a quick mute to all of my allies, as I just hear some things in my ear. I'm gonna avoid going for these extra objectives too quickly. We'll see with my allies. I'm gonna assume that with one of us being, as I'm gonna guess, one of them is a mortar build, we won't have the killing power to quickly clear this out. You usually can do this with an Eclipse, where you quickly get the crates here before the second and third wave spawn. I'd actually still be able to. Although, well, my allies aren't going for the other one, so that's fine. If you get all of these, you will skip one wave after the boss, at the very least. Anyway, one of my allies has a hive, the other one is getting the other one. Yeah.
Hostiles approaching.
And it's the Hunter's Mark there as well, again, just showing me exactly that enemies are going to spawn from that door. So I knew even before they ran out, there's 2 enemies in there. Here again, like I know. That Hunter Mark is very powerful. Like, it is one of the great tools of the set. And yeah, I'm soloing a boss. I shouldn't do that. I'll just go around the outside, kill that one, come back in. He has the full debuff on her now. And while the Scorpio isn't, of course, a damage talent, it is very powerful. It is one of the strongest shotguns anyway. It is a 612 basically underneath it. That's the stats of it. It is basically without a damage talent. But, of course, it has that, it has the poison, it has the disorient, it has the shock. And especially on very heavily armored enemies like that boss, I actually did get the 7 shot. Because usually, if you get the shock, the next shot is going to apply the 20% debuff. And that 20% debuff is, of course, group-wide. It is very powerful. My allies are very weak, I feel. I do want to give a quick inspect as we get rogue agents. Normally, with rogue agents, I would swap to a PFE at this point. This guy's running Aegis, or trying to. This guy is running nothing, literally. and an explosive build, which is going to make this maybe an interesting fight. We'll take it anyway, but I'm going to wait for my allies to all be here together. I don't know why, though. They're taking their sweet time. And yeah, well, trigger this. So usually they spawn from the elevator here once somebody triggers the halfway point. Oh no, they spawn downstairs? Okay, no. It's basically a 50-50 between those 2 points. They come either from the elevator right behind you, or they come from there. I'm gonna close the range a little bit. I wish I actually still had my lefty equipped from earlier. I would actually... Although, well, one of my allies did get sledge up.
Assault turret.
And yeah, we'll go for the quick kill. I can do a lot of damage.
Assault turret.
As we saw, with the numbers, this can compete, especially once it has now, you know, a few kills up. It can compete pretty favorably with even the top-end builds in Striker. And of course, I don't need to stack, which makes my power, you know, once a Striker gets stacked, yeah, it's hard to beat, but before it stacks, the nice thing about Hunters Fury, same with like Glass Rats, is their power is very much upfront. So the damage is very much upfront. We're skipping one chest. I'm not going to go all the way up there to that balcony and get that chest. But there is a chest up there. Seeing as this is going to be a longer mission. And yeah, that fight actually went perfectly fine in the end. A lot faster than the inspection of my allies led me to believe. So I'm actually curious. Where, oh, that guy went Foam Eclipse. Okay, that makes it a little bit tougher though, because I think they had a somewhat damaging build. I'm really the only damage dealer left in here that can really actually deal good damage. Because my other 2 allies won't. 2-piece Hunters Fury doesn't. With 3 pieces Fenris, that's we can basically say that is not a build. And yeah, I need to actually watch it. I'm hoping this should hit the wall. Oh nope, it went in the doorway. That was well aimed by whoever is. Yeah.
Vital signs critical.
I need to slow myself down. I don't have a hive anymore. That is, yeah. Once my hive is gone. Because that was the last remaining point. When she does her voice line, that voice line means that, yeah, all 3 other points were destroyed. So yeah, I kind of wanted to push out. And usually here, it's better to push on the right side than the left side. I know a lot of people go on the left side. I never really understood why. Because you can actually shoot the front one and the left one from the front. And then you can go up the right side and shoot the right side and the back one from that side. You can't shoot them as well from the left side. Honestly.
You might be able to gain access from the scaffolding across.
And yeah, my hive is still on cooldown. I should slow it down a little, and I'll slow it down just a little. But I know I can kind of push up to here. These guys are reds, they'll die. And the only directive here is Fog of War. But that's kind of mitigated, at least in dangerous ways with the mark. I'm actually going to leave that enemy like that, and I'm going to push in, because I know they will spawn either from this door on the left or that door all the way in the back, in the right, and I can kind of catch them in here. I'd be curious to see at the end of this mission how we stack up against each other. Well, with a lot of mission types, especially True Sons and Outcast, famously, you can't trust the damage numbers. Especially with the New York factions, you can somewhat. I want to take these flame rounds for later. I'll use them as my CCing tool, but yeah, I get the feeling that when I'm not shooting at something, it doesn't really quickly die. Waiting for my allies a little. I'm going to be aggressive again. 10 meters. I need to be in 10 meters. In Heroic, they don't spawn from this door on the left here. That's just something you have to know. And yeah, there's a... Is there a heavy in there? There's a heavy in there. We'll use that gal to disorient him. The backpack goes away. The backpack, when you destroy the backpack on those guys, they can no longer use their nail gun. That is what that does. And yeah, by just being here again as well, I know there's this many people inside of this door. That's super handy. Like there's... of course, I'm the only one that sees those marks, so it's not like my teammates will benefit from that, but for myself, you know, vision is one of the most important things. I shot that a yellow box up there as well in the middle, shooting everybody else, and that has opened up this door back here, which I'll go loot. And especially what you want to do here is not rush in. And because of that, I'm gonna rush up to the front, so I'm at the front. I want to be one of the first people into here. This room is very dangerous because when people do stuff like this guy, you got to push through. You can't sit on that side. You'll be killed by the snipers on top. You need to kind of be up here. But what you need to do actually is wait for your team. But we can't expect that from random groups, and that's fine. That's just something, you know. When we're talking about random groups versus coordinated groups, that's part of it. I want those things coming down already. And yeah, these guys are outside of my range, both for Intimidate and Hunters Fury and, you know, Adrenaline Rush and stuff like that. So yeah, it's horrendous. There's one weapon crate on the right here. I'm gonna go get that. And we only have the wave before the boss fight and then the boss fight. And we can't have rogues here because we've already had rogues. They're on a cooldown now of half an hour at the very least. From when we completed the encounter, they go on a cooldown half hour. And yeah, well, hopefully these guys will wait. If he's gonna go in solo, I'm gonna... There is no reason ever to go in like that. Just wait for your team, go in all together, especially with this. This is actually a dangerous wave. This is all elites. There's a bunch of heavies usually with this. They're covered by a few lieutenants, so usually there's at least 2 lieutenants. This time, well, now Ragers is gone, so there was likely only 1. But yeah, usually 2 heavies as well that are Ragered, and yeah, there's... Luckily though, especially if I can make it 1 versus 1 against the heavy, 3 shots will disorient him, the 5th shot will give, the 6th shot will give shock, and then I'll get a debuff on him. Once that first wave is gone, it's a little bit easier. The other waves are not elites. And again, I'm going for the middle target, disorienting the rest. I'm gonna sit up here-ish. What you want to do with this fight is actually spread out. Is to be not all on the same side. Normally here as well, if we had a fire eclipse instead of that foam eclipse, we could consider that guy going after the extra waves that spawns here. So one of these areas will, yeah, so over there. I'm gonna go deal with this because I'm expecting my allies not to. One of the areas will change lighting briefly before this wave spawns. And yeah, these are the ads of this fight.
Serious trauma detected.
And I'll go deal with them. Normally you want the Eclipse to go deal with them. But yeah, you can't expect that for that. So you should have no expectations. I play it basically as if I'm solo and I have 3 decoys. And off goes Dragov. We got his suit recently, so yeah, we don't need you anymore, Dragov. We'll deconstruct all this. So there is this yellow box up there. I'm going to shoot that. There is this yellow box up there. I'm going to shoot that. That opens the cage that had a key in it and a chest when we were coming in. I am kind of curious as to the effect here. And then, yeah, I joined in a room late as well. And yeah, sometimes you gotta carry, and I didn't even play that well, but they helped out at least a little bit with with the rogues, because yeah, if that sledge didn't happen to them and they weren't foamed, it would have actually been a much harder fight. But also, yeah, it would have been a much easier fight if I had good teammates. We're gonna open that, we're gonna shoot that one, we're gonna come over here, and the other guy shot that one. We have 4 crates in here, which all scale, so well worth getting. And this is one of the reasons why some missions are well worth doing, actually, for some loot, especially if the targeted is what you're after. Because that's not all of it. A lot of people leave after this. They think they are done. They've gotten all of the loot that is scaled. That's not the case. There is another 5 crates. 5 crates outside. Yeah. Let's go get them as well, as we'll show that as to end this off. As I see my ally over there going for at least one of them, I feel. As one is here with exit, 4 are outside. All of these as well, always scaled. So now, of course, open world loot scales as well. But these ones, yeah, still are here. And you might as well get them. I always do. Because there's these 4 here. And then there's also a key chest over here. There. The key chest, no, actually, well, now, again, key chests don't scale with the open world anymore now as well. But also, it used to scale. It doesn't anymore. So basically, it doesn't scale. So chest up here, chest up here. And we'll open this up.
Another agent has been promoted to group leader.
And we'll shoot that yellow thing in there. Another 2 here. And as always, there's a lot of fighting happening outside here. But yeah, we'll get these 2 and then get the key chest. And then we'll head towards our conclusion. I'm just not gonna bother fighting with these people. I have one sole intention here, which is to get this. And then we'll go back here. And yeah, we saw here the Intimidate variant with Adrenaline Rush, full red, in a mission. It wasn't really at home, but you can make it work, especially, of course. Let's take it to the conclusion where I'll give some of my final thoughts. And to conclude this video, Hunters Fury with shotguns is alive and back, as for a long time, as I said at the start as well, shotguns just didn't have a good talent to go with them. Stuff like Obliterate, of course, won't work with them well. You could go double companion as I tried, or for instance, Spotter worked decently well, but of course you're going to have the Scorpio. And especially having the Scorpio now again, and having a Detox Scorpio, getting basically 7-ish% extra damage out of the Scorpio, because going from that crit damage third stat to this Detox is quite the increase. In this variant, especially with Adrenaline Rush Intimidate, all red, and getting our survivability basically completely from the Scorpio, and that shield is basically non-existent there just for its damage bonus. This build I quite enjoy. It is very powerful, it is very run and gunny, and as you saw with the gameplay, it can be very powerful. You'll go down here and there. That's just part of the package. That's the price you pay for being a run and gun build. But as long as you don't die twice in a row, you have a 1-up here, you're well off to use it, and then just slow it down whenever it's away. And you can get pretty good results out of this. I can totally recommend this build. That is also why it is totally on the recommended build list now, as SMG Hunters Fury was already on there. I've added in this shotgun variant into there now as well. It comes highly recommended and well worth a try. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video and want to help out, I would very much appreciate any engagement things to let our algorithm overlords know that you may like me or my videos. My next video is going to be on the MMRs and how they stack up now versus each other. I'll give a spoiler warning that the SR1 is going to be my general recommendation, and the Model 700 is going to be the highest damage, but it comes with some, caveats that make me recommend the SR1, basically. As we'll go into some of those numbers, it won't be burst and sustain numbers, of course, because that doesn't make sense for those kind of weapons. We're going to compare them on hotshot for their first shot, their second shot, and then their capped shot, and see how high they go for different gradings and different variants of those weapons. And that will be then followed up by likely things and stuff, and we'll afterwards go into some rifles. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and hope you join me as I'm often streaming on both YouTube and Twitch nowadays. As for instance, as well, this entire build showcase was recorded live on there. And the last thing that is left is, of course, lastly, for me to wish you to have a good night.